Shalom everyone, Yoel here with a brand new video. This is going to be part of a series of videos I'm going to be making about word studies. I'm not going to really focus too much on the issue of actual words, but more how to actually properly do a word study. I do apologize for some of the noise in the background. It's the lens still adjusting itself. I'm still learning how to use this camera, so I hope it's not going to be too much of a nuisance in the background. Very quickly, before I even begin talking about any material, I really need to first of all focus on something very, very important but very, very elementary that I have to bring up, which is my actual academic training. I've been accused in the past of being a self-proclaimed academic, and this is actually not true. I'm in the process of finishing a degree, and this is why I actually do speak with some authority on the issue of biblical studies and the issue of biblical Hebrew. I've actually finished my training in classical Hebrew. I have training from high school level, and I also have training from the academia, so therefore I do have authority to talk about at least some of the stuff that has to do with biblical studies and biblical Hebrew. The point of this series of videos is really to try to explain some of the more common mistakes that people make with word studies, and what I really want to point out is that though a lot of what I'm about to say is probably known to a lot of people, I still think that it's very important to focus on some of these things to clarify some points. There are, I would say, and I usually start with three and then it usually develops to something a bit bigger than that, but there are three basic problems I keep on seeing in word studies. One problem I keep on seeing is people comparing Hebrew to English or Hebrew to other non-Semitic languages. The other problem I keep on seeing is ripping words out of context, and the third example that I always see is misunderstanding words based on their roots. Now, I really want to focus mostly on the issue of philology, which is the study of words in their context, but I also want to focus on how roots are used. That's going to be at least one or two videos, I hope. And only in this video, I just want to talk a moment about the issue of comparing Hebrew to other languages, especially if they're outside of the Semitic language scope. The problem I keep on seeing is that people treat Hebrew as if it's a European language. Now this works on two levels. One is using, I would say most commonly because I'm an English speaker and I don't really speak any other European language, is using English grammar to try to decipher the Hebrew language. Now, this problem really comes from the fact that the first grammarians or the first linguists in the world were Indian and Greek, which means the Indo-European family. And the problem with this is, though many languages have similar traits, each language also has its own world. It really has its own world of concepts and world of understanding of things. How do you treat a verb? What exactly is a verb? Even amongst the Semitic languages, there is an argument regarding how to define a verbal clause versus a verbless clause. So really, using the mechanisms of European languages to try to explain Hebrew is very, very problematic. However, for a non-Hebrew speaker, some of these terms are useful because they do define the usage of words in the Hebrew language, but it is still very limited. Therefore, for example, when someone tries to define a word as an adjective, it's very important to understand that this word will not always be an adjective. It can be used in other things. Adjectives, for example, are the probably smallest group of words in the Hebrew vocabulary. And it's very, very common that we would use combinations or other words, which are irregular nouns, to describe something in an adjectival form. This is why it's very, very important to be very careful how we use the terms. Now, it doesn't mean these terms are incorrect, it just means that you have to be, it has to be very clear to you that these terms are only borrowed, okay? I really hope the noises are not too strenuous in people's ears. In any case, another very, very common problem is that people try to read the Bible with the concepts of the world they come from. For example, trying to read laws of marriage as the way the Western world understands laws of marriage is a very, very problematic thing, because the way marriage was seen in the ancient Near East is different than the way the marriage is seen, for example, in Europe, especially after the barbaric laws and the Salic laws, which are the base of a lot of modern law, which see things very differently. So it's very important to understand that when Hebrew uses a term or uses an idea, it is very, very important to realize that these ideas fall in the scope of the Semitic thinker, of the Hebrew speaker, and not what the European speaker or European language speaker or European culture would understand these concepts. It's just, these are very, very simple things. However, it does require a lot of knowledge to understand the differences. This is why I highly recommend to understand a term, okay? This really mostly happens inside the realm of terms. To understand a term, like for example the word brit, which means covenant, it's very important to understand why is it karat brit? What is the idea behind kritat brit, for example? What does it mean to cut a covenant? It has a world of concepts to it. There are a lot of videos out there about the whole issue of covenants. I'm not going to make a video about that, but it's something that's worth looking into. And so on, there are a lot of terms, a lot of words which are just actual terms. Like for example, lately someone contacted me about the issue of the word kahal. What exactly is the kahal, the assembly? Is it related to the hakel, the assembly, the great assembly every 7 years? And at the end of the day, they're not really the same thing. But because they share a root, people think they mean the same thing. But the kahal is a term, while hakel is really just a verb. But if you know what a kahal is in its ancient terminology, you understand that it's really something very specific. So just as an opener, here are just some points that you can see where you can use a word, but the word has very, very specific meaning. Just knowing the word in Hebrew is not enough to really understand the concept itself. I'm not saying it happens with every single word in Hebrew, but it's something that can happen quite commonly. So it's very important to understand. If you want to understand the Hebrew language, you have to also understand the Hebrew culture, and then you can really start opening up the real meaning of certain terms. However, when it comes to simple words are usually quite common, quite simple. Using a regular dictionary usually will give you the definition. However, the moment you have a definition, you have to decide which one of the possible definitions that exist will be the ones that will help you understand the context of the word. That's really the philology side and also the morphological and vocabulary side of language. In any case, this is just an introduction. I hope to make more videos very, very soon. And I hope these videos are beneficial to everyone. If this helps you, please share them. Ask questions. If there's anything specific you want me to talk about, send me an email. Whatever works for you, but the main point here is to understand the Tanakh from its correct context and not from general context or general ideas that people have. Kol Tov.